So having spent 12 years as a mayor, in every introduction beginning with Mark was the youngest mayor in the history of all mankind, I thought that by being elected county executive I would have shed that moniker, but no, apparently I am also the youngest county executive in Dutchess County history. So as David was saying, Mark has a long history of, I kind of whispered of being young. I have a long history of being young. It occurred to me that when David asked to speak, and let me please extend my thanks, it is an honor and privilege to have been asked. So to Dr. Conklin, to the Community College Board, and to the Foundation, I extend my gratitude. I was a little bit concerned that having 900 of my closest friends last week at my swearing-in ceremony and then coming here, where all of you were probably forced to attend. Some of you I employ, so I know why you're here. No, that I might be a little bit overexposed, but having done this for a long time, someone joked before I was elected that Molinaro may only be 36, but he feels like he's been around since the Eisenhower administration. So overexposure is something I'm apparently comfortable with. It occurred to me, however, that when I come to these breakfasts and listen to individuals speak, they generally talk nostalgically about the good old days of Dutchess. Well, I can speak nostalgically, but they weren't the good old days. There was only the 90s, and there are very few of you who would consider that, the good old days. But I have this awkward position of being too young for most of you and too old for most students. So I belong nowhere. Last week I shared, and I meant it sincerely, first the joke that we often told as members of the New York State Legislature, that the best part of going to Albany is coming home again. But I say sincerely that having served 5 years in the state capitol, I am very honored and grateful and proud to come home again. Come home to Dutchess County, a community that I love, come home to a responsibility, an honor that I know can be, if we work together, transformative, but coming home to a college campus and to a college community that inspired me not only into service, but provided an opportunity for me and countless other students to balance what was an academic expectation with a community commitment. And Dutchess was the right fix for me. It was also, in case you did not know, at the time, the lowest tuition of any community college in the state of New York. My mother was thankful. It was 1993, in fact, and I had been interning for my then Assemblywoman, Eileen Hickey, a phenomenal woman who inspired and taught us about public service. I was preparing to go off to Wagner College on Staten Island when I began involving myself in community activities in the village of Tivoli. And as a 17-year-old at the time, I started to attend village board meetings. And we had very important and weighty issues to deal with. Garbage in our park, very important. Went to the village board, many of us, and we argued at the recreation committee that we needed to deal with littering in our park. So we suggested to the board of trustees that it was time to finally bring garbage cans to the Memorial Park in the village of Tivoli. And I know this sounds like an inconsequential discussion, and it was. One of the village board members at the time stood up and said, well, we can't put garbage cans in the park because if we do that, people would put their garbage in them. Now, I know that they were thinking that Wayne Nussbickle would clean out the shop and carry all this stuff up to the park and we'd be stuck with it. But I thought at that very moment that if this person could run for office, get elected, and make decisions for me, clearly I could do the same. Intelligence was not a prerequisite to holding elected office. So I ran home and I said to my mother, Mom, I've got a great idea. I'm going to run for the village board of trustees. And you know the very first thing out of her mouth was, well, if you run for the village board of trustees and win, because my mother was obviously convinced I was going to be successful, and if you win, you're going to Dutchess. Now, I think part of her was thrilled because it was the lowest tuition and a lot less than Wagner College on Staten Island. But imagine that. The very first thing out of her mouth, you're going to Dutchess. Served 1 year on the village board of trustees as a student here at Dutchess Community College, inspired again not only to serve but to learn. I ran home and said to my mother, the mayor is retiring after 20 years of service, and he's asked me to run for mayor. I said, would you let me run for mayor? She said, you can run for mayor, but you are going to graduate from Dutchess. Again, to many of you, I think actually based on the election results from November, about 60% of you were satisfied that I graduated from Dutchess and stayed in the community. To those who weren't as satisfied, I will tell you still that graduating from Dutchess was a success that took many, many years, but something that I was very happy with. And the reason I mention it is because, again, we know the benefits of Dutchess Community College. You all know the benefits of Dutchess Community College. I stand before you now as the chief executive of this county. I understand its role, its importance in job creation, in job training, in preparing young people for entering the workforce or moving on to a four-year university or college, or perhaps those seniors who wish to come back and re-enter academia, if you will. We understand its importance. I understand its role in economic growth, in providing opportunity. You are a leader in ensuring that our county is as great as it is. We understand all that. But this campus is an opportunity for so many who would not have that opportunity otherwise. And as a young man who decided to serve his community, it was just the right fix. It was just the right fit. And serving and at the same time attending, we were inspired to think here. I have to be very careful because, well, two things. David says I have about 3.5 minutes. I can't even clear my throat in that period of time, but nevertheless, I'm working on it. I have to be careful because I was once at a high school event and I started mentioning teachers that inspired me. And at the very end of that presentation, one of my teachers walked up to me and she said, I was a little offended. I inspired you. And I looked at her and said, well, if you say so. So I don't want to point out there are many of you in this room and on this campus who inspired us. Some reprimanded me, like Carol Roper. She said, you really have to show up for English? But I recall two professors, Joel Diamond and Rich Raitano. And I remember taking their course on presidential politics. And one of my friends, who was a little more conservative than I was, said to me, you know, they're liberal. I said, oh, shocking. I never would have expected that. I said, what's your point? Well, you know, I don't know if I want them to tell me about politics. I said, well, how boring would it be to enter a classroom where your professor and you agreed, where the only thing you heard was that which you already understood and accepted. So we took that presidential politics course, and Rich Raitano and Joel Diamond encouraged us to engage in debate, encouraged us to think, encouraged us to challenge. What a great concept, and what an absolutely necessary value to hold on to. You know, there are too many people who are frustrated with government, dissatisfied with the institutions of democracy. Too many people who think that government just can't work. I would suggest to you that one of the reasons that we're stuck in this paralysis is because we've stopped challenging people to think, that we get comfortable with our perspective and don't entertain anyone that might disagree with us, that we dismiss those with whom we disagree. Well, this campus inspires and encourages people to be creative, to open their minds. I took a modern American literature course. This young Italian boy was reading Toni Morrison, who I'd never heard of, inspiring to read about her experience in the South, her experience as an African American, and the challenges that an entire sector of population had that I would never have experienced otherwise. We have to think. So we have to be creative. We have to challenge ourselves. So whether it's a piece of artwork that strikes a nerve, or some course that strikes a chord, someone you agree with, someone you disagree with, this campus inspired me, as it inspires countless Dutchess County citizens and those who may come to our county to come to this school because of its excellence. It inspires people to think. And as we confront the challenges that face this county, as we confront the challenges that face this community, let's not be afraid to be creative. Let's not forget the lesson that Dutchess Community College teaches all of us. Be creative, be innovative, and challenge ourselves to confront one another in a civil and respectful way, but always open to a new idea, because this is the place that not only changes students' lives, but if we embrace that concept, the very concept that this college inspires others to think about, we change the life of our community. Now, in closing, I want to recognize that the work that goes on in this county is not done by any single individual. And I have the good fortune of serving now in a singular job. But the responsibility is broad, and it requires all of us to pull together. So it's the academic community, it's this community, it's the boards, it's the volunteers, it's also those who serve in elected office. And I just want to note that we have many partners here, those who serve in the county legislature, my partners in the executive branch. I know that Brad Kendall and Bill Grady are here. I don't know if Jim Coughlin, our county comptroller, or Sheriff Anderson are here, but we all are required to give of ourselves, and there are countless municipal leaders as well. But before I close, I want to recognize those who work for Dutchess County, those who toil every day to make this community great. And in saying thank you to Dutchess Community College, I'd ask you to extend your thanks to the men and women who are here, who serve Dutchess County government and work every day to improve the character and quality of our community. So thank you, Dutchess.